Good evening, good evening. We are so excited to be welcoming you this Friday night. I'm sure everybody, if you were out right now and you had a drink in your hand, you stopped what you were doing because we are having one of the most interesting conversations that is about to happen. It's going to be the best Friday night you've had in 2021. We are talking to candidates for City Council President this evening. I'm so excited to be joined by four just incredible people, great people who have decided to dedicate their life and their year to public service. Can we start by giving them a round of applause? That'd be good. Amazing, amazing. Every bar in Atlanta is just going crazy. So this is amazing. My name is Rohit Malhotra. I'm the executive director at the Center for Civic Innovation in Atlanta. And this is the Vote ATL City Council President Forum. We wish we could be with so many of you, and in years past we have had an entire full group of people, but just in recognition of the fact that COVID is still alive and well and is still hurting our state and our city, it was important for us to take as many safety precautions as possible. We have all gone through, safety conversations and voluntarily have decided to sit on this stage together here, but I wanted to just express how much we miss you and wish that you were here with us. We do know that this is going to go to hundreds and thousands, hopefully, of folks who are going to be making decisions on who they're going to be voting for on November the 2nd. And this is, I would argue, one of the most important elections of at least my lifetime. What I wanted to give you a little bit of information about was Vote ATL and the Center for Civic Innovation, and then we're going to jump right into what is going to be, I think, a very, very powerful conversation. So Vote ATL is a coalition of grassroots organizations that's led by the Center for Civic Innovation, the Connect, Community Movement Builders, Blue and Green Consulting, and we are just so thrilled to be coming together as a group of four amazing organizations that have decided that this election matters now more than ever. And so we are joined by other dozens of organizations. I want to thank Butter ATL as well, who's been making sure that we get this out to the culture. And then in addition to that, we're thankful to On the Grid Creative, who is hosting us in their incredible space as well. So thank you to everyone involved in that. We decided 4 years ago that we got to make sure folks are informed and engaged in our local elections, that the decisions that are made at the local level affect us almost immediately. And the Center for Civic Innovation is an organization that has now a 7-year history of getting into some good trouble. And we've been doing that in 3 different ways. One is that we've been trying to make sure that people know that while amazing things are happening in our city, Atlanta's inequality continues to widen. And year after year, we start to see people who are struggling, and COVID put a big bright light on that. So we want to make sure people know that and that they're inspired to do something about it. Because number 2, there are amazing organizations and people who dedicate their life to doing community-based work every single day to make sure that communities in our city are able to thrive in spite of Atlanta's inequality. And third, we advocate and push for policy change, because this work and this change has to live beyond our lifetimes. It cannot just be among individuals or organizations. Our public policy needs to be a reflection of our morality. And so that is why 4 years ago we decided to start a Vote ATL series, engaging tens of thousands of people in local elections. And this year, why we've sat down with so many mayoral candidates. For those of y'all who, those candidates who weren't willing to sit down with us, good luck. And for those of you who were, thank you, and also good luck. And we are just grateful to have what is one of our final conversations for this month with City Council President candidates. So I'm thrilled today to be sitting down with some really good folks. We have Ms. Nadalyn Archibong, who is a current City Council member. We have Courtney English, who has a history of working in the school system, dedicated his life to public service at a young age. We have Mike Russell, who is a very outspoken advocate and ensuring that people can hear different sides and different parts of the policy debate. I've been listening to some of the things you've had to say. Doug Shipman, who's been working in the nonprofit sector and has had his hands in a number of different change work across this city. So every single one of these folks has a track record of a commitment to public service. So I am grateful for your time, first and foremost. We're gonna we have some fun stuff planned tonight because it's Friday night, so anything could happen. But I am going to, yeah, you're scared, right? There's about to be a clown that pops out, and that clown is going to be running for mayor. So what we're going to do is under your chairs, I'm going to just show y'all a couple doodads and widgets that we got that we're going to use tonight. So first, if you could take out your pom-pom, please. See your pom-pom? Woo! Yeah. Do I got a pom-pom? I don't have a pom-pom. All right, whatever. I don't need a pom-pom. I don't need no pom-pom. That's fine. That's great. The pom-pom reflects, if someone up here says something you agree with, I don't need you to repeat it. I just want you to be like, absolutely, I agree with that. I am with that. That makes sense. I'm cool with that. So folks can know that, all right, they're saying that, but that person also agrees with that. So we've got pom-poms. Can we practice that? I agree. Oh man, y'all are so filled with energy. I can't wait till y'all are our city council presidents. Yeah. Second of all that you have under there is a chalkboard. We didn't go with a whiteboard. We went with a blackboard because we're in Atlanta. So here we go. If y'all can pull that out as you can. You should have a piece of chalk. Very cool. So we will be asking y'all a few questions. You should have a little wipey as well, which is, I think, the technical term for that. And so after you write one of those questions, there are going to be some rounds where I'm just going to ask you some questions and have you put it up there. But I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, just tell me this one thing I want to know. But we're going to try to get into it. But when there are binary answers required, we're going to ask you to do it in a binary way. So that's going to be that. And then the last thing, the cool thing, Miss Archibald just wrote no because she knows she's going to write no matter what. So it's going to be like, who knows what I was about to say? You don't even know. Do you love Beyonce? Oh my gosh. So the last thing that you have in there should be a little like kazoo, little buzzy thing. Y'all can look at that real quick. Y'all found one of those? See that? These have not been touched. No one's touched these. You see those? These are going to be used. You can use this twice through today. You can do this twice today. And this is when someone says something that you want to put your 2 cents on, or you want to, be able to have it. You just give it a little, and I'll make sure you get in to the conversation. Okay. Oh, you got it? I got it. All right. Okay. I know it's Friday night, so just gotta put you back into it. Yes. So you get 2 uses of these, but other than that, I'm going to ask that you do not interrupt other candidates. And as they say on Zoom, watch your face, right? So so just make sure we do not want to interrupt one another. We're not going to have time for everybody to answer everything, but now you have some nodes to show if you agree or disagree on something. We cool with that? Solid. Good with that? Yep. Sounds good. Feels good. It's going to be the best. All right, a lot of rules. It's almost like council. It's great. It's almost like you may have to deal with a few more on that, right? So, look, first and foremost, I think what we talk about in this work is that this is human work. And so I'm going to have you bring your chalkboards out first, if you don't mind. And I want you to just write down the name of one singular person in your life that has inspired you or would be proud of you today for running for public office. One person's name that would be super proud of you for running for office. They can be with us today or with us in spirit, but someone that would be really proud of you. And we're going to show those names one by one. Okay. All right. Courtney, I'm going to have you start. If you could say the name of the person and in about 20, 30 seconds, just tell us who they are and what they mean to you.
Yeah, so sure. Glorice English is my mom. My mom is my hero. All that I am, everything good in me is a reflection of her fight, her sacrifice, and she spent a lifetime fighting, essentially, with government in so many ways to give me the life she thought I deserved. And so everything I do is a reflection of her life. And so she passed away in 2012, and so still trying to carry on.
She's with us in spirit here today. I can feel it. She's got to be super proud of you, Courtney. Thank you for that. Doug, let's have you go next.
Sure. So mine is Lou Bergeron. Lou is no longer with us. She passed several years ago, but she was my high school counselor, and she was the one who believed in me and believed that I could leave the little bitty town that I grew up in probably before I could. And so I probably wouldn't be in Atlanta without Lou Bergeron pushing me along in high school.
Okay. Thank you so much. Ms. Archibong.
Show it.
Yeah, let's see it.
This is Miriam Archibong. She is my daughter. She is the wind beneath my wings in so many ways.
I get you to speak in the mic too.
Oh, I
just so we can
forgot
hear
about
her.
that.
Yeah,
I'm so used to talking loudly, okay? So I said Miriam Archibong. She is my daughter. She is the wind beneath my wings. She is an attorney here in Atlanta, product of APS, but is someone who inspires me to always look to the next generation and to be sensitive to. It's just more than just one person. It takes a whole community. And so Miriam Archibong is my inspiration.
I love it. She's probably very proud of you as well, and I'm sure your counselor is very proud. Would be very proud of you as well. Mike, we're gonna have you go last.
Nana, that's the name we called my maternal grandmother. She is my hero. She's no longer with us. I get emotional just thinking about her. She picked cotton and made a lot of sacrifices so that I could be on this stage today. And everything I do, I mean, I have my parents still, but she was the rock of our family. She was our matriarch. And whenever I'm feeling like things are a little bit too tough, I just remember her in those cotton fields, that she made it possible for all of our families to excel and exceed. And that's one of the reasons why I'm able to be on this stage tonight.
Thank you for sharing that, y'all. And for all those folks, whether they're with us or not, I think thank you for bringing that to this table. That matters. We forget about that we're all driven in this work for different reasons and in different ways. Mike, where'd you grow up?
I was a military brat, but the first 9 years or so of my life, I lived in a segregated neighborhood in Oklahoma. We were between railroad tracks on one side and a Native American reservation on the other. And even though we were poor, the neighborhood was clean, it was safe. And as I wrote my bio for my website, I contacted my middle brother. We're pictured together on the website. And I asked him, did I remember it the way you did? And he said, absolutely. It was one of the best times of our lives, of his life. We were
in Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma, because it was a real community and people stuck together. It was safe. I could walk from my great-grandmother's house down to my grandmother's house to my parents. Never felt any fear from crime or anything.
Yeah.
And so it was a great beginning. And then after that, my dad came home one day and had the bright idea that we were going to, he was in the Army also, that we were going to go to Europe.
Gotcha. So we're going to keep it with Oklahoma. That sounds, the wind come something down the plains. I think something like that. Thank you for sharing that. So we got someone from Oklahoma here. How about for you, Miss Archibong? Where'd you grow up?
Here in East Atlanta, zip code 30316. I didn't have to come back to East Atlanta. No. I have been here and stayed. Thank you.
I love it. That should be the new single, honestly. I'm in. We are in an artist studio. Someone's about to remix that. Congratulations. That's great. Courtney English, where are you from? Where's home?
Atlanta, Georgia. Born and raised, Oakland City. Zone 4 to be exact. West Side. Doug High. Church of Antioch.
Yeah. You want to just start spitting Spodiope Dopalicious real quick?
Crawford Long, delivered by Crawford Long.
Okay, there you go. Okay, by Crawford Long himself.
Crawford Long himself.
There you go. Of course. I love it. Thank you. Doug, how about you? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in northern Arkansas, a little town of 1,200. My parents still live there. Was there for 18 years until I ended up coming to Atlanta to go to college.
Okay.
So that's where I started.
There you go. Love it. I want to talk a little bit about identity here. I think that identity is extremely important in this conversation. We had pulled up an old article with Sam Massell had a conversation with Maynard Jackson about when Maynard Jackson was going to run for mayor in what was then not necessarily a very black city at the time, right? When Maynard Jackson was running for mayor, a lot of what Sam Massell said was you got to have a counterweight to your race. There's in Atlanta, you can't just be a black mayor. You got to also maybe consider having a white a white city council president. That was important as a part of the way that he felt that that's how you needed to win. And that was a big conversation between that. And history will tell on how well that worked or didn't work. And it was a pretty big compromise. There's a huge article that we printed out in the AJC, and it said "Deal by Jackson, charged by Massell." Doug, is that the right way for us to think about race in this city? Is that we need a black voice and a white voice at the table?
No, I don't think that's the right way to think about it. I think that race in this city is clearly an important part of Atlanta, in large part because Atlanta has such an incredible black legacy, civil rights, of culture. And so I think that you have to know that race, and especially African American history, is a core part of the city. But to say that you have to have a balance, no, I think it's much more about tackling the issues you started out with. We had 25% poverty coming into COVID, and a lot of that poverty actually was concentrated in black and brown communities. And so you have to think about race as far as how are policy implications correlated with or even caused by issues of race or racism. But I don't think the leadership necessarily has to be balanced in some way because of race. I think it's much more about the interests and the policies and where folks are going to head the city, and are they going to tackle those problems.
So, folks have been talking about race for a long time in this city, right? This is not a new topic. And I think in addition, when they talk about race, it's not like we're the first folks up here talking about how important it is to talk about, the concentration of every challenge that Atlanta is facing disproportionately affects black communities and neighborhoods. So we've had black politicians saying that for a long time. Do you think, as the only white candidate on this stage, that will white folks listen to you finally? Why do you think you can speak on race when so many folks before you have been challenged to get people to take it seriously?
My history in the city around topics of race and history obviously are linked to my work with the building of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, and I came into that work very humble as someone who didn't grow up in Atlanta and someone who wasn't involved in the civil rights movement because I wasn't alive. And so I had to build bridges with all kinds of people who had lived through the movement, people who didn't like the project, political figures, etc. And so to me, I think that I have had to, as a white, straight, cisgender man, navigate all kinds of identity issues to build a place to reflect everyone's identity authentically. And so I'm not sure that I would say that white folks are going to listen to me because I'm white or men are going to listen to me because I'm a man. But hopefully that experience of trying to bridge gaps not only across race but across generations, which I think so many times we have very different views of these issues across generations. I want to bring that experience in this city to this role.
Do you believe you have an understanding of the black experience in this city?
I believe that I have a historical understanding of Atlanta's legacy, but obviously I can only have my experience, and I can only bring my own experience to the table and then bring my leadership to bring others to the table so that we can actually create the future together.
Got it. Courtney, you are, aside from Ms. Archibong, who I might be wrong about, the youngest candidate on this stage. But my mother taught me well. Look, you're the youngest candidate on this stage. You grew up in Atlanta, like you say, Atlanta without the T's. So we know. But you also, that by proxy, by being younger, there's only you're not that young anymore either, by the way. But you are younger. You have limited experiences in this city. I think there are a lot of folks who would question why not gain some more experience in some other areas, really get a sense of how the city works. You ran for Post 1 as well before. Why city council president for you? What is it about your identity? Does your youth play? Is it an asset or is it a detriment to you?
Well, I think we all come to this work. At least I come to this work, and I bring all of who I am. Right. So I'm a black man in Atlanta, and all of that means a black man in America, and all of that means. I think public service requires you to lay it all on the line every single day for people. I started early in this work. And so, my first time advocating for a thing was working with Mayor Shirley Franklin to advocate to help our sewer system get the necessary funding it needed to get back on track. From then on, I went on to Morehouse and started a nonprofit that was designed to prepare black men for college. That unearthed for me what wasn't happening for folks all across the country, really. I can tell you all stories all day long about my background. The point I'm making is this. I've been running towards the challenges that Atlanta has faced for quite some time. This isn't new to me. I didn't just run and try to jump towards political office. I really dug in. When I started the program at Morehouse, we served 3,000 kids from all across the country. That let me know what wasn't happening across the country, so I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to literally roll up my sleeves. I started teaching and realized, hey, look, we've got some issues in our school system, and I wanted to make sure that the students I served had access to a good principal and a good teacher across the school district, no matter what they looked like or the background they came from. And so I ran for school board. And so what you will find over the course of my life is that when presented with those challenges, I've always run towards them. When we realize that kids lacked affordable housing and were moving around from school to school, and how
my question is about your experience. No, I mean, look, you've been on the trail. I got you.
No,
like,
well, it's not about the trail.
I got you. But what my question is really rooted in, right, is that I want to know what kind of city council president you're going to be and how you're going to speak to issues of race and also talk to young people who are pretty disengaged in the process right now.
Yeah, so I think where I was going with that, and I apologize, I get long-winded. Blamed on me being a Morehouse man. Where I was going is that none of this is theory for me, right? I've lived these issues every single day. First, as a kid growing up on Atlanta's West Side, so when folks talk about it being harder anywhere to go from poverty to prosperity in this city, that's me, and that's my personal story.
Do you think folks should, I mean, look, we have now a couple decades under our belt. There's been a lot of black leadership in the city who has promised to do this, who will actually have used their identity in the stump speeches to say, look, I look just like you. I grew up right here. I'm from here. I'm going to make sure that I take just so, and then when you actually look at the execution of public policy, you would think, wait a second. I mean, how can I trust a word that you just said? You just told me that you see me. You told me you have the lived experience. Why are you going to be any different than that?
So I think that goes back to the first part of what I was saying, right? I think what's different, I can't speak to anybody else. I'm only going to speak about me and my own experience. What I've always tried to do is do what my mom taught me to do, and that's to leave things better than I found them.
Yeah.
And so at every step in my life, I've tried to give more. I tried to leave a situation better than I found it. And so, look, I can't speak to any other elected official. I can tell you that when you look at the course of my life, no matter how old or young I am, no matter how long I've been elected or not elected, I've always tried to serve. I've always leaned in, and I carry the stories of my mom, my students, folks who live on my neighborhood with me, and that drives me every single day. And I think I can't say it's different or not. I just know my story is a story of trying to lead with urgency and passion.
Yeah, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but I think we're going to have to get folks to know why is this going to be a different story this time, right? A really brilliant young leader who wants to be at the table, again, promising communities that things are going to be better. We got to figure out how we're going to get there, right? Mike, you bring different political views sometimes to the table. And that is, I think, unique for Atlanta in the sense of there's usually, when it comes to political parties or alignment with methodology it usually leans a little bit left. When I was about to when I told folks that I was going to be interviewing you and have you on this stage, they were like, "Ooh, that guy goes the other way," right? Where do you think your political, clarify your political ideology, where it sits, so that people can be grounded in that first? And do you think political ideology is actually important to decision making for local office?
I don't know if it's political ideology. I think your worldview has a lot to do with your decision making, along with how you grew up. I've lived and worked in 26 different countries with people of various ethnic groups, backgrounds, social, economic situations, and that has really opened my eyes to what works not only in America but around the world. And I've changed my point of view on a lot of issues over time based on what I've seen that actually work. And you may have noticed I get really agitated when I hear people using virtue signaling words that don't mean anything. I'm really about the results, not the rhetoric. I don't care what party you are, what race you are, what religion you are. I'm about people. I raised my right hand when I was 17 years old to join the United States Army to serve this country. And I believe in that. I believe in this country, and I believe in public service. And so my philosophy, the way I look at things, is based on my experience of dealing with people around the world and things that I've witnessed and seen that actually work for people.
So I'm not sure you answered my question. The question is around you are outspoken on where you stand on national politics. Is that correct? Is that something you speak about publicly?
No, I don't. I've divorced myself from anything other than this nonpartisan race here in Atlanta, because I think that divides people up into tribes, and we start pitting folks against one another.
Okay.
And that is something that we absolutely do not need to do here in Atlanta. I have commented very vocally on social media, like next door, with this Buckhead movement, telling people we have got to stop this being at each other's throats over this issue, because no matter which way it ends, we're going to have to live and work together. And this is Atlanta. This is the cradle of the nonviolent civil rights movement. We've got to make those words mean something, and we cannot do that when we're at each other's throats or we're divided into tribes, and we're allowing politicians and others to do that to us.
But what if that division is a moral issue? I mean, division on one thing, division on whether you like, cheese pizza or cilantro on your pizza, that's a divide, right? But whether you like pizza or whether pizza is an amazing food or not, to me, that's a non-negotiable, right? There's I think there are certain things that are moral issues that when it comes to Black Lives Matter, that's certainly not a politically divided issue. It's a moral issue. Do you believe Black Lives Matter or you don't believe they matter? But it does matter where, even if you're nonpartisan, where you stand on these what have become national rhetoric issues. And if you Google Mike Russell, there is kind of a bit of clarity on where you might stand on.
So give me a moral issue that you'd like me to address.
No, I'm curious about where do you stand, which moral issues maybe are most important to you. If you want to start there, that would be fine.
I think I have a very hard time, and it may be because of some of my experiences in war, of seeing people suffer. And I can get really emotional about that. And so that's what infuriates me, when people make hollow and empty promises to help people and they don't.
Agreed.
So one of the things that I've done is I've reached out, I've gone all over the region trying to find things that, again, that actually work. So there are a couple of programs like the Drake House.
Okay, just give me one program, because we've got to move on.
And then, so there's a new guy in town, his name is Myron Fontaine. We're working together. He calls himself the prison doctor. Please look him up. We're working together to do prevention for our kids to keep them out of trouble and out of jail. My background is law enforcement, but you don't make a city or a place safe by locking everybody up. There are 3 elements to crime, and the first one is prevention. So I am putting my personal money where my mouth is, out there trying to help these kids before
Got it.
they get in trouble.
We'll get into those issues then, because we're not going to get an answer to the political question. So I will move to Ms. Archibong. Ms. Archibong, I want to know from you, you are the only Black woman running for this position. Just you and Doug Shipman. It's perfect. But I would love to know, for you, look, this has been everybody wants to, yeah, look, yes. Everybody wants to talk about Black women these days, right? Y'all are the hashtag. Everybody wants to talk about, I want to promote and push Black women to the top of my leadership. Just a report came out while I was coming here. I got a report of just a study that was done on all these hashtags and all these promises that were made, and pretty much when they did an analysis of the promises that were made and what actually happened, you can imagine it falls short. People make a lot of promises, say they're going to do a lot of things, and then fall short on it. As a Black woman who is been in this game for a minute, how does your identity as a Black woman play in this race? Does it matter? Is that an important identity to you? Or is it not? Is it important for Atlanta to have Black women leadership, at the forefront?
And I can get my chalkboard out and just put why yes on there if you want me to.
No,
or
no.
You can go ahead and elaborate as well.
Yeah.
No, I think it is important, and I think we have had a journey where we've had leadership. You talked about Sam Massell, who's still with us. We've had a lot of white male leadership, not only in Atlanta, but in this country. And I think that the diversity that we have in Atlanta is rich and it is important. And I do think that as a black woman, that is an important attribute that I bring to the table. I don't think that the hashtag movement drives that as much as it is foundationally an important dynamic of Atlanta to make sure that, one, women feel valued, and two, a woman of color feels valued, and that the leadership opportunities are open to all. And so I do think it is important.
When I've talked to a couple other black women who have been in this, who have either been running for office or have been in elected politics, they've said, don't lump us together, though. At the end of the day, there is a not all black women have been in service of black women, and some people have said that is a division tactic. There are others who have said that that is true. How would you say you have been treated in this work? Do you feel that your identity as a black woman has played a role or has affected your ability to run for office? Do you feel that you've been encouraged by other black women in this work or space? How should people, because I think there's a feeling of, a conversation around race that has happened, which is we need to have black leadership. But now that conversation is shifting and changing. Is your identity important in this race at all? And is it a consideration voters should have?
Well, I don't get to change it, right? So it is who I am as part of the package, and I do think that there's been, when we look at the national election, there was a lot of talk around the not only black people voting in a way that changed the outcome of the election, but especially black women. And so when you think about being empowered and you think about being of a gender that has not always been in power, you do take some strength from that. But that doesn't mean that everyone isn't equal. It doesn't mean that men are to be devalued in any way. But I own my identity, and I am proud of the women that have led this city, and I am proud to offer myself in that same way.
Got it. One more question on this, and then we're going to move to a couple other things. Doug, I want to start with you on this, that you are, I've seen you knocking on doors. I've seen you in the streets. I've been just, trying not to see anybody on the Beltline, and I see you walking with 4 people having a conversation. How have you, what does community engagement look like for you as someone who is trying to show the type of, leader or candidate that you're going to be? What is that, how have you approached community engagement and listening and learning from people?
So I've approached it as part as the campaign all over the city. It's been very important to me to do small events, meetings all over the city. I have engaged small business owners who are exclusively women, who are Korean small business owners. I've had several meetings with a whole group of Latinx folks from different backgrounds. And then also conversations about topics. So a housing topic or affordability or the Beltline. But also, just to your point, to be out there hearing where the city is. Because I think that, especially with COVID, we have not had conversations across neighborhoods or across groups because we've been so isolated. And so I've tried to use this campaign as a way to see, is the city in agreement on some issues? Is the city actually divided on some issues? And to actually hear firsthand what different people in different parts of this city feel like. And so that's what it's been like for me, but also to build relationships so that as city council president, I can bring some folks in who haven't felt like they've had a seat at the table to actually use those relationships to bring them in to policy making and government and participation if I'm lucky enough to win.
Yeah. Courtney, you also, I think, have been very active about, being on the ground. I've seen you myself. Like there has been, you are a part of an organization that is committed to making sure that families are taken care of, on a day-to-day basis. So I've seen you with families. What's your approach to community engagement? When you think about community engagement and actually engaging with folks who are in our neighborhoods, making sure their voices are heard, how do you make sure, especially even diverse voices that may not agree with you, are heard?
Yeah, so first, I think we have to I try to create as big a tent as possible. I try to do as much listening as possible to as many people as possible, particularly voices in opposition, perhaps, of whatever the issue may be, particularly voices that have been marginalized. And so I run towards those voices. Look, I've got all kinds of ideas about all kinds of things. And so, the promise I always make to anybody is that, look, when we disagree, I'll give you all the time in the world to set me straight. And at the end of the day, I'll vote my conviction, right? And so I'm honest about that promise to all of my constituents. And that's the same way I approach the campaign. But I think it's incredibly important, particularly in this city, particularly in this moment, that we make an effort to reach out to marginalized voices. Far too often, those voices get pushed aside, left behind, and you got to go find those folks.
What's a marginalized voice?
Ooh. Hey, look, black, brown, poor people, women of color specifically, our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ plus community, a number of voices in this city that I think, again, oftentimes aren't invited to the table. And I think, particularly when it comes to folks who are on the lower end of the economic spectrum, regardless of whatever other demographic you might hold, you don't oftentimes have time to go down to the meeting. You don't have time to show up at this and the third, I think. And so what is incumbent upon us as leaders to do is go proactively seek out those voices and learn from those experiences, and then not just carry the voice into the room, but carry the person literally into the room with us to advocate on their own behalf. And that's I've tried to do that work.
I've seen you working out. You clearly are carrying folks into the room. You got making sure people get into the building. Ms. Archibong, you have been on council. You often have had voices that come in to council to engage. There's always a variation of voices that are there. And there are a lot of people who feel like, the city council process of actually folks being heard, does it even matter that I say something there? Because are you even listening? I go in front of council members. Sometimes council members are on their phones while, they're talking, go take bathroom breaks while someone is presenting. Not that y'all can't take bathroom breaks, obviously, but we should create a pause maybe. But I think that there is something that feels incomplete about the engagement process between people and their council members today. Has that been different in your experience? Do you feel that you've had a challenge engaging with people, or are folks just not using the right avenues? Why do you think people feel this way about council?
That's the way you feel.
You don't think people feel that way?
People love me. They absolutely
Y'all got your pom-poms, kazoos out? Just want to make sure. I just heard that people love the way that city council engages.
They love Madeline Archibong is what I said.
Okay,
and I am unanimous in that.
No, you're right. No bias there at all.
Right.
You're right. Yeah.
One of the things that COVID, and thank you for that question, and thank you for not letting me be last again. I was feeling as a woman a bit, anyway. COVID has taught us a lot around the community engagement piece. We allow for people you don't have to physically come, because think about it, if you work and you want to come to a committee meeting or you want to come to a council meeting, it's an impossibility. We're, by design, by the way we've been functioning, excluded people. This COVID thing, if you look at a good outcome, has been that if you have a phone and you know the number, you can call in and your comments will be heard and they will be played, and you will be a part of the conversation.
Why did it take COVID to do that? Folks have been asking for that. Why?
No, nobody asked to do what we've been doing during COVID. People wanted to have more opportunity. If you came in at one-on-one, Tanya, if you came in at one-on-one, you might not get a chance to hear or be heard as public comment. I do think that we need to do better at having opportunities for the community to engage. I also think that there are a lot of different ways that people engage. I don't get to go to the grocery store or walk down the street with my dog without engaging community. Going to community meetings is engaging community. Sure. Telephone calls, emails, but at the meeting level, and it is televised, that's when the evaluation of whether or not there's engagement, and I think that's at the end of the continuum.
Yeah.
I think community engagement and respect for, as I say, we the people, is an organic, it's an everyday, it's how we lead and how we govern. And so I don't think that the fact that we don't take a break, but we do continue with the meeting.
Sure, but if you're city council president, now that changes, right? Because your role on council completely changes. There's going to be other council members who need to engage with their constituents, and if they're not doing it necessarily in the way that you're talking about, there's a challenge, and that doesn't mean that the system has fixed itself. Maybe there are one or two people who do good things in the process, but there is. Do you not see a fundamental flaw in the way that city council today engages constituents and residents in decision making? Or do you think you got it right, but everyone else got it wrong?
Well, I think that we have 12 council districts, and each of those districts will elect the representative, and then we have the 3 at large, and I think that each of those districts will evaluate whether or not the council person has heard them. As council president, I am not their mom or their dad, right? I don't get to make people do things. We're all adults in the room. And I believe fundamentally that the people that offer themselves to serve, that they want to do a good job. And the challenge becomes, what does that look like? Does it look like I always have my phone beside me and I never show it, but I'm not really listening when you're talking? See, we're looking at evidence of things that we can see, but it's really, let me tell you something that happened to me early on. I always used to chew gum when I was at council. One lady came up to me. She said, "Baby, stop chewing that gum." And I said, "I tell you what, don't watch what I'm chewing, watch how I vote." I shouldn't have said that. But I really thought you're looking at minutia.
Sure.
You really need to look at where's the real engagement. When you align the vote with the comments that have been made, I think you will find Archibong has been in alignment with that. And you can check every council member the same way.
Sure.
Don't major in minor. The major is, what are the policy directives, what votes are actually taken, and how can we hold people accountable? That's the measuring stick.
Got it. Mike Russell, for you, what has engagement looked like for you? I've seen you active in, and you've talked about wanting to, hear different sides of folks and bringing in worldly views as well in order to make decisions. What is your version? What does civic engagement look like under City Council President Russell?
Well, the large reason I'm in this race is because people in Atlanta asked me to run. I never had the idea of being in politics. I'm not part of the establishment. I'm not part of the wine and cheese crowd. And it was because I was out in the community doing things, helping people, that folks said, but based on your experience and the ideas that you're presenting, we would like for you to run. And that, to be honest with you, I said no a couple of times until they enlisted my husband into this, and then we both agreed to do it. So mine is very organic, grassroots, being out there with people, looking who's suffering, out there out of my own pocket, trying to feed and help the homeless. And I just felt that this was another obligation of public service that I need to go into after doing it my whole life in the military, to bring to the table the voice of the voiceless. I was just talking to a lady who drove me down here in an Uber, who lived in a shelter, and listening to her story and thinking, my God, how did that happen in our city of Atlanta? And why has it not been addressed? Talking to an elderly lady who's being forced out of her home by a developer, who called me when both of her city council reps would not even come to their neighborhood. And you can check that. I have it on my website. Fighting for both affordable housing, the tree canopy. I've been an outspoken critic against...
We're starting to move away from community engagement.
Let me finish, please. So my community engagement is based on the needs of the people in this community, who have also come to me and said, we're the voiceless. No one listens to us.
I'm asking, how do you go to people? I wasn't asking how people came. It sounds like a lot of folks have come to you. Right. My interest was learning, as if you were council president, how you would go to people. In interest of time, I hope you can answer that in another question or clarify that. But I want to move on to a couple other topics. So if we can take out our whiteboards again, or our blackboards, excuse me. Excuse me for my slip there. I want to really make sure I hear y'all on your ideas. Y'all sound like all great people. Y'all sound like you got good visions for Atlanta. Now we want to understand whether you actually understand this role. The City Council President role is a very specific role that has not so specific duties, but we will get into kind of some pieces. We want to make sure that anyone who is the council president has a good understanding of this city and the responsibility that is ahead of you. So we're going to ask just some general city questions real quick. So first and foremost, don't cheat don't look at each other's papers. We will disqualify you if that's the case. But how big is the budget of Atlanta, and how much of that is general fund? So how big is the budget of Atlanta, and how big is the general fund? How big is the budget of Atlanta, and how big is the general fund? All right. Okay, so if y'all can turn around your answers. You ready? I'm about to give you the answer. The answer is 2.04 billion. So we got 2.61 billion, 2.4, and what'd you get over there? 1.9. Okay. So standard deviation here and there. We got a little bit here and there. If this was The Price is Right, we'd have a different. You had 600 million. You had 700 million, 750 million. What'd you put? 700 million. Okay. So just for folks who are viewing at home, the city of Atlanta's budget is $2.04 billion. And we have a $710 million general fund budget. That's where a lot of our spending and money that comes in cross-checks with one another. So I wanted to get a sense of Mr. Russell, what is the biggest expenditure for the city of Atlanta?
Law enforcement.
Yep, that's correct. I wanted to ask you, Courtney, what is our greatest source of revenue?
Property taxes.
That's right. Great. So greatest amount of money comes in from is spent on law enforcement, 33%, and then we have 32% of our budget that comes in is from property taxes. The next question that I wanted to be able to ask is to you, Doug Shipman. How big is the city of Atlanta in population? What is the population of the city of Atlanta?
Roughly 500,000, give or take.
Okay, roughly 500,000, give or take. That's correct. And then, Ms. Archibong, what is the black to white ratio in the city of Atlanta? What's the black population in the city of Atlanta?
It's roughly 47% of the total population.
It's a little bit higher. It's closer to 51% of the city's population, but it will potentially decrease over time. But we don't have the new census numbers yet, so we will see.
The preliminary numbers had it at that, so.
Dropping below 50%.
Right, and let me see your cheat sheet, because I can read very well.
Sure, go ahead.
Right.
Did you download this from voteatl.org? Did you get that? That's good. I can give you, you can have my copy if you need.
I'll look at it later.
Okay, for sure. It's got some really good facts on here, voteatl.org, so that'll be good. In addition to that, we've had a number of people who have served in the city council president position for many, many years. I did mention there was our first city council president. Does anyone know that person's name?
Not counting Maynard Jackson. Right?
I am not counting Maynard Jackson.
Weich-Fowler was the first under the new charter.
Yeah, so Weich-Fowler was the first city council president under the new charter of the city of Atlanta. Does anybody know, maybe we could just write it down on the blackboard if you have an answer. Anybody have a sense of who was the longest serving city council president, who served the most? Okay, well, we don't even need the blackboard. So Marvin Arrington was the longest serving. He served for 17 and a half years. He was city council president. Oh, great. Okay. You're going to give him credit? None of your colleagues credit for answering?
No, for him, for serving so long.
17
That's a long time to serve.
17 and a half years. There was also, we've had two candidates for city council president who have not moved on to fill their full terms, who did not fill their 2 terms. One moved over to become a vice president of Coca-Cola. Another went to go run for another
Carl Ware and Kathy Willard.
What's that?
Carl Ware and Kathy Willard.
There you go. Boom. Oh my gosh. This is great. Perfect. So what I want to ask you out of this question, look at the kazoos here are going crazy. I wish you could see this. This is like South Africa during the World Cup, like the vuvuzelas. I see vuvuzelas everywhere. This is great. What is interesting about these folks is the vast majority of them ran for city council president and then went to go run for mayor. This is a common concern for folks about the role of the city council president, that this is just a stepping stone to become the mayor of this city. I wanted to know if there is anybody who plans to already serve 2 terms of a city council as city council president, as opposed to running for mayor in 4 years. Is there anyone who would be willing to commit to that? If you were elected to a 2nd term, would you run again for city council president, or would you run for mayor?
Not mayor.
You do not want to be the mayor of Atlanta.
No.
You do not want to be the. Okay, you do not want to be the mayor of Atlanta.
Let me do this too.
All right. Okay. So Natalie Archibong does not want to be the mayor of Atlanta.
And I'll agree with her. I have no desire. Yeah. No, I have no desire to be the mayor of Atlanta. I just want to be city council president and keep my promises, and I think that'll be enough for
So
me.
Mike Russell has no desire to become the mayor of Atlanta. Doug Shipman, do you want to be the mayor of Atlanta?
I want to be the city council president, but I don't know exactly what's around the corner. I mean, as we know, one of the duties is to become mayor.
That sounds like you want to
if the
run for mayor.
concern- No, not necessarily. I haven't been in politics before, so I want to try to affect change, and that's a question. This role needs to be transformed.
Okay. So, but right now, your intention
Is
is
to serve 2 terms as city council president. That's
2
my
terms as
intention,
city council
because
president.
to transform the role.
Okay. And remember, the city council president is not term limited. So you don't have to do 2 terms. You could do 8 terms. You could be like good old Marvin and do many, many terms.
You just asked a question about 2
yeah.
terms.
No, for sure. I asked the question. I was just educating the audience that it doesn't have to be 2 terms. How about for you, Courtney? Do you want to be mayor of Atlanta?
I want to serve. I want to get the job done for people. And right now, I feel like my talent, skill sets, and experiences lend itself towards city council president. So I'm running for city council president, not mayor or anything else.
Yep.
And so, for me, public service is a calling. And so it might be, what I can say is that I want to serve as long as there are issues to be worked on.
There will always be issues to be worked on.
Sure,
That's for sure.
sure.
Yeah.
And but that public service, what I mean by that is that service might not necessarily be an elected office either. I
Gotcha.
wake up every single day and build affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
whether it's inside city government, in elected office, or in a private, I will always be.
But you understand the source of the question, right? It's obviously
Yeah, but
it's not meant to be.
so-
It's
No, I
meant to
got
be
you.
like I'm saying, as someone myself who's undecided on who I want to have, as my city council president. One thing for me is that I want to make sure, and I am truly undecided about this. I was talking to my family about this, and a lot of my concern is when I feel like the city council president, which has had a history. This is not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is true. Historically, has been used as a stepping stone to become mayor.
But it hasn't. I'm sorry.
Oh, it has.
No. So I'm gonna say
Yeah.
a few things. And I appreciate you taking it there because I wanted
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Let's talk about what we're talking about, right?
Okay,
And
yeah.
so nobody has gone to, except for Maynard Jackson,
Yeah.
right? Like who was the vice mayor of the city at the time, has actually gone on.
No,
to
they
make
haven't
this
been good
step,
at it. That's
right?
true. That's true. That's right.
And so-
None of them
and so-
have won.
And so the
That's
point I'm
true.
making,
Yeah, none of them have
the
won.
point I'm making
Yeah.
is actually historically doesn't work as a stepping stone, right? And so what I offer is, or my thought is, here's what I've learned having led a legislative body. Here's what I learned in politics generally. You can get a lot done when you don't care who gets the credit. And I feel like the function of leadership actually is to give more power away. And so what you have, and frankly, I think what your question lends itself to, what Natalie has talked about and Mike has talked about and maybe and other folks have talked about is that, you have had folks in this office who have, been at odds with the mayor because they were angling to be mayor. That's not me, right? And I'll let Doug speak for himself, but I don't think that's my intention. And so, I'm not trying to fight with the mayor. I want to work with the mayor, whomever that person is, to get good stuff done
Yeah,
for the city. And
sure.
moreover, I believe
I just got a whole set of other questions.
Okay,
so
cool. My
I
bad,
appreciate
my bad.
you.
But yeah,
I appreciate you, and I'm going to give other folks, when I get into other questions, I'll give you a chance to respond with just as much time as well. But my question, which I've heard, is that look, I am scared that whoever's going to run for this office, the second that they get the office, is that they're going to start running for the next one. That is the Atlanta way. That I've seen it happen. I've seen mayors do it. We got mayors who have had a lot more time sometimes in DC than they have Atlanta. And so it is scary as a resident and someone who cares about this city to constantly feel like, do I have leadership that is present? Do I have present leadership? And I bring up the history. I gave y'all some softballs for history, and that was for the purposes of people educating and learning. But the root of the question is around the fact that too many people have used this as a stepping stone in politics. But I want to get to the root of what does the city council president do, right? So one of the first pieces of things, and we have some sample legislation we're gonna pull up, is the first thing that is super important, at least to us when we're talking about CCI. So the city council president, the role of the city council president, the city council president does not sit on city council. So that's first and foremost. They do not sit on city council. But the city council president does sometimes have to break a tie. Now, we weren't able to find a successful scenario since 1999, which is when, everything was better in 1999, but where the city council president had to actually break a tie. But what we do want to know is where you stand on certain issues. So I'm going to provide a couple scenarios. And if you were the tie-breaking vote, I want to know whether you would vote yes or you would vote no. You would vote yes or you would vote no. And I want you to use your pom-poms because I feel like we're just not using them enough. And like those, we got them from the dollar store. That's like $1, $2, $3, $4. Like this is donor money, y'all. So
Can we do this?
because I want to have a little fun. I was just, can I have a little fun? I want to have a little pom-pom action. This is gonna be great. So I want to get a sense of a few different pieces of legislation if these pieces of legislation had gone to a tie vote, if they had gone to a tie vote, and there may be some of y'all, just like, Courtney had a little time to answer that previous question, I may let some of y'all dig into the specifics. Would you vote yes or would you vote no? If the answer is yes, I want this. If the answer is no, you don't need to do anything at all. If you do one of these, I'm going to ask you to clarify. You be proud of your vote. Be proud of your vote. And it is my expectation that you've already thought through these types of things. And so one of the answers we don't want is, well, I'm going to actually sit down and talk to the constituents and really make sure, yeah, I got you. But you've thought about this. You know it. It's a moral line sometimes. So we're going to want to know our city council president knows where they would vote. So the first is, very recently, in the previous administration, there was a legislation to fund an additional $12 million to fund the completion of the North Side Bridge. The North Side Bridge is now a $33 million bridge that was built right on the west side. It was meant to give people access and to the games and $23 million is the clarification I just got. But who knows? We haven't seen all the receipts. But it's a lot of B's. A lot of M's, that are riding up and down on that bridge. So I want to know for you, if you were the tie-breaking vote, would you have voted to put an additional $12 million to complete that bridge? Yes, if you would put your pom-poms like this, and no, if you would not.
Wait a minute. Can I ask you a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Because I think I've talked the list. You've been taking time. Back in time, knowing all that then I voted, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I already voted, so I can just watch.
Okay. All right. So that's fine. I appreciate the swag. I just want to make sure that we're also able to get answers, just so people get clipped. Like some people may not be able to read between that. So if the answer is no, is there anyone who would have voted for an additional $12 million? No. Okay. So, Ms. Archibald, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to this one, so I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that. You are one of the people who voted on it. This was a contentious vote.
It was.
Why was it contentious? And what do you think made people vote one way or another? And what does this say about how you would vote in the future?
So by the time we realized that we had a bridge suspended halfway over Northside Drive, and it would cost as much to remove it as to complete it. And I thought about it, if I had a bridge like that suspended halfway over Memorial Drive, what would I want to do? And we weren't going to be able to have that continue that way. One, it wasn't safe. Two, it was ugly. And so there was no cost differential much in either completing or not completing. And so we erred on the side, or I erred on the side of completing it. And it is a vote that was very unfortunate. But sometimes you have to be pragmatic. And we were where we were, not at our fault, but as we came back, I think this was the last term into the new term, and we realized at that point the cluster F, if you will, and so we had to make a decision. It was not one that I felt good about, but it was the option that we had. So,
Got it.
went with
Okay.
it.
All right. So, our expectation would be in the future, as dollars are put toward major development projects. It seems like for y'all, that is not necessarily bridges like that are not necessarily the ones we should be spending our money on. Is that accurate? I'm going to get a couple other folks.
Decorative bridges. No.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move to the next example. We got this may be coming to council soon, but there's a lot of conversation about introducing legislation that would create density around MARTA stations, that would allow for accessory dwelling units as well. And so for y'all, if that legislation came and there was a 7-7 split, would you vote yes or would you vote no? You would vote yes?
Yep.
Okay, so you're the sole person on this stage that said they would vote yes. Why would you vote yes?
I think, look, no piece of legislation is perfect, and I think the proposals aren't necessarily fully baked yet, but here's what I know, right? Zoning is probably the biggest tool you have to impact affordability. There are a number of them. In fact, zoning is probably one of the biggest tools that has been used to segregate communities, right? And so when you look at how Atlanta is divided, we pride ourselves being a city too busy to hate. That isn't really our reality, though. And in part, it's because of how we've adopted zoning measures or kept zoning measures in place in the past. When I look at the areas around the city that will be mostly impacted, that mostly need development, they're areas that would benefit from some changes in zoning, candidly. And that would do a whole lot of good to increase economic mobility. It would do a whole lot of good to decrease traffic congestion. It would do a whole lot of good for a whole lot of people that for far too long have gone.
Is this an example of something if the majority or if a lot of community members said, I am not interested in that, but you believe it's the right thing to do, that you would vote differently than what the community would say?
I would work really, really hard to understand what their true convictions are, right? Like what the actual point by point, fact by fact. And I work really, really hard to solve them. But I will tell you this. Look, at the end of the day, I believe leaders can't just settle for common ground. I believe it's our charge to push for higher ground.
Got it.
And so I can't say without a fully baked piece of legislation, I'm going to do everything in my power to make it great and make it work for people. But I fundamentally believe in pushing for higher ground.
Got it. So you can use your one little boop boop if you'd like to. Okay, use your boop boop. Go ahead.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm the only person on this panel who will actually, if this comes to us before December 31st, will get a chance to vote on this, and it is my position, as you said earlier, to listen to all of the commentary. But I will tell you this, that as it relates to this particular piece of legislation, we are looking at a zoning overhaul. This seems to be one piece. We need to do the entirety of the rewrite and not do an a la carte. It's been very disconcerting for the public, and we need to have an agenda that says we are going to be holistically looking at zoning across the city.
Got it. Okay. You absolutely. Yeah. Oh, very good job. Now, could you do it again for the audience, please? That would be, I just want to. Okay, wonderful, beautiful.
So I have been totally against this proposal ever since I learned about it, because it does nothing to preserve our legacy residents. It does nothing to preserve our communities. It does nothing to preserve our tree canopy, green spaces, or the watershed. It's a one-size-fits-all. We were told initially it was just going to be a cursory change to the law as required, but then they dropped the 600-page change on the city. I think it's undemocratic. It takes power away from communities and the NPUs, and I find that all objectionable. So what I would like to have is real community involvement where people have a say. I mean, people have talked to me from Collier Heights all the way up to Buckhead that are against this law. It has nothing to do with color. Everybody that I've talked to, almost to a person, is against this law. And I think a new city ordinance, zoning law, must include an enforceable, viable tree canopy ordinance to protect our trees, because that is not happening now, and it will not happen under this ordinance. They talk about density. Density does not make prices go down. I've lived in Amsterdam, Frankfurt. They have high density. Tokyo, that didn't make the price go down.
I got to travel with Mike Russell. That's
The
for sure. I've learned
desirability,
that.
I have not been to
Yeah,
Tokyo,
yeah,
but
yeah.
desirability
Yeah.
and location is what drives the price.
Gotcha.
And we said that at the Beltline, that was going to have affordable housing. There's more density on the Beltline than ever. There's no affordable housing there.
Got it.
This needs to be this needs to be tabled until we have a new city council and a new mayor, and we have community engagement, and that we can make this right for the
Thank you,
entire
Mr.
city of
Russell.
Atlanta.
So the next question that the next piece of legislation that I want to put, whether you would vote yes or no, is that especially after we all had to witness, during the beginning of COVID, we saw a pandemic ravage people's lives. But we also saw what many black and brown folks have seen for a long time, particularly black families have seen for a long time, is that there is a contentious and in some ways violent relationship in some communities between police officers and residents. And when George Floyd was murdered right in front of our eyes, a number of folks went into the streets protesting and calling for their city to take a second and really reevaluate what it is that our police department would be doing and how our police department would engage with our communities. And there was a calling to hold a portion of the budget, until an actual plan was created, to hold a portion of the Atlanta Police Department's budget until a plan could be put in place for how we were going to move forward. If you were the tie-breaking vote to hold capital from the police department's budget, would you vote yes or would you vote no? If you would vote yes, if you could shake your pom-pom. If you wouldn't, you can not.
I did vote yes.
Okay, so shake your pom-pom. Okay. Doug, why wouldn't you have voted yes?
Because I think it was the wrong policy approach to that specific outcome that folks were asking for. The ideas around how do we police, what kind of skill sets do we have in the police department, do we have more mental health specialists, do we have domestic violence specialists, do we even go after traffic stops differently, I think are absolutely the right conversations. Okay. But in that moment, holding was not going to necessarily lead to those different outcomes. And so I just thought I think that it was the wrong policy approach at that moment. I would have voted no.
So it was holding it. It wasn't removing.
I understand. I fully followed that story.
Understood. Okay. You have only two blows of the thing. If you'd like to use that on this one, you can.
You have to ask the accurate question.
So at the end of the day, the candidate can answer it the way they want. Folks can do their research at home. I'm going to move to the next thing unless anyone wants to comment. Use their blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. All right. So I want to move on to a similar question, which is recently, and this is, we heard, there was a number of phone calls made in, a number of campaigns, a number of conversations around whether the city of Atlanta should sign a lease with the Police Foundation to build a police and fire training facility. Some folks have said the moniker of Cop City is good or it's offensive or whatever, but at the end of the day, there are activists who have dedicated their entire life to talk about this, and there are also folks who have been in the police force to talk about how they felt about this piece of legislation. Ultimately, the legislation, after a slight delay, there was, if it went to a 7-7 vote and you were asked to break that tie, and I asked the same question to the current sitting City Council President, if you were asked to break that tie, would you vote to sign that lease? If yes, shake your pom-pom. Okay. Do not...
To vote to fund the...
She said shake your moneymaker, and you started doing that, and I did not want any of that.
So, yet the question is shake your pom-pom of yes, that you would build a facility.
Not just build the facility, it's sign the lease. That's what
Sign
the
the
legislation
lease,
was.
yes.
You would sign the lease.
Yes.
All right, Mike, so tell us why you would sign the lease.
Because I looked very closely to this situation, and just for the interest of time, the 2 training academies had to be abandoned because they could no longer be occupied by human beings, which I fault the city government for that because that was a long process for them to get in that shape. The second thing is I looked at, there were no other facilities that met all the criteria. And what happens with this compromise, because politics is the art of compromise. The residents in that area have no green space now. The city has promised them that forever. They're going to get a park that is bigger than Piedmont Park that they will have for themselves.
Who is they?
The residents surrounding that facility. So to the north end of that, they're going to have a park that is actually bigger than Piedmont Park that they're not going to have to pay for. The training facility, which it has been a training facility for generations with the weapons firing range and the EOD where they explode the ordnance there, they're being used there currently. Nothing changes except for those things are going to be moved away from residents. There's going to be sound buffering so that they will not be disturbed like they are now from that. There haven't been any complaints about that. Last year there were 18 the civilian term bombs exploded there that were found in the city of Atlanta. Not a peep. But yet during this process, those were all brought up as issues. So I think it was a good compromise. I think actually that the Atlanta Police Foundation came in and sort of saved the city with their $60 to $80 million funding because this was something that was going to have to be done anyway because our fire and police their training facilities are not habitable and they're spread out all over the place now trying to conduct training.
Got it. Doug, why would you vote no? Yeah, I already saw you. I saw you. I heard you.
You anticipated my book?
I saw you. I anticipated that. So why don't you go ahead and comment on that?
I think that the training facility is needed. I think the environmental impact of the lease as it was presented is far too high. We are an underparked city. We are an under green space city. We are a city, I agree with Mike that the tree canopy needs to be protected, and in this case, we needed to protect it. And I think that that lease should have been improved. I hope it still can be improved if that's the place that the training facility needs to go, but the environmental impact was too high for me to vote yes.
Yeah, and I'd be, you got one more blow of the whistle if you'd like to use it, Mike. On this one, you're more than welcome to. We do have other questions, but let me just follow up with Doug on this, which is, Doug, I think you're in a unique position on this stage that you have worked a lot with corporate foundations in this city. And some good, some questioning. Some folks have had questionable behaviors over the course of the last little bit. There is a heavy hand sometimes that these corporate foundations, particularly in Atlanta, play on local public policy. If you're elected to be the city council president, I know you've had really good relationships with a number of those the foundations that are supporting this training facility. How would you tell them? Like, what it would be? How would you make sure that people would feel that that would not be a conflict of interest with you as city council president?
When we were building the Center for Civil and Human Rights, there was a lot of question of whether or not money was going to dictate content.
Yep.
And right up front, we made the boundaries of what the content would include, and we also were very clear that corporate funders would have no say over the content. And in fact, sometimes we said no to money because they did want say over the content. Mm-hmm. And I think that the center speaks for itself. It is a truth-telling place. And so I think that the same approaches are the ones that I would use, and I think people can take that experience and have confidence that there wouldn't be a conflict of interest.
Got it. Since I've asked follow-ups, I'm going to give Courtney and Ms. Archibong a chance to respond to this one as well. Why would you vote no? I mean, Courtney, what for you is the deal breaker here when it sounds like foundations want to help something that the city was already supposed to be doing?
I support and truly believe that our first responders need a state-of-the-art training facility. I don't think there was enough community engagement around the process. I don't think we did enough listening. I don't think we took enough time to unearth the issues from the environmental impact to actually listen to the folks who live adjacent to the facility, and the people who need community trust the most when they show up to an incident are our first responders.
Sure.
They're our police and firefighters. And so when you do a thing that without talking to enough folks for long enough, it erodes public trust.
Yeah.
And so fundamentally on that basis of I couldn't support it.
Yeah, got it. Ms. Archibong, you actually participated in this vote. What was the debate that you saw, and ultimately why did you end up voting the way you did?
I'm having a problem with the
I
swag.
got you if you want me to hold it.
No,
I
just
got you.
gonna-
Okay.
here, I messed up my pants.
No,
But
I'm
anyway, you said the vote was held for a bit. I was the reason that the vote was held. I made a motion to table the legislation because the outcry was loud in the space of community engagement and listening to people, that there was unreadiness. And during that 3-week period between convincing my colleagues to hold it, I wrote an impassioned email to all of my colleagues, and I'm grateful that they listened. During that 3-week interval, I held a sort of a town hall. We had 14,000 people on our telephone lines. We knew that to have real engagement, you have the Zoom, you have the Facebook Live, but we needed to have inclusion for folks who didn't have access to all of that. So to have 14,000 people listening in. And so my vote no was about process. We are within a stone's throw of the area that we're talking about in unincorporated DeKalb. When I first heard about this initiative, I told the Police Foundation executive director that for over 20 years, the neighbors in Council Districts 5 and Council Districts 1 have been working, have been visioning, have been seeing this for the environmental jewel that it is. I pleaded with him to go out to the community and talk to them and let's build a consensus from the ground up, not from the top down. 4 years ago, I had that conversation. It was ignored, and so we had the outcome that we had. And so the environmental impact, we're still waiting for that kind of information. Right. So last thing, the lease itself has a provision that says with 180 days notice, this whole 50-year lease agreement can be terminated, which means a brand new mayor, January 2nd, can say, guess what? We're going to do a do-over. That's not fair to the men and women who serve us, who needed a facility. There was just so much unreadiness, and I was proud to vote no.
Got it. Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about a few roles of the city council president. Number one, we want you to be, this is not officially on the books, but of good character. We know that the first vice mayor, our last vice mayor, Maynard Jackson, certainly tried to exude that. We've had a number of people who have served in this position. It's been incredible to know about your background and where you come from to this work. We talked about having a knowledge of the budget. That will be a process that you will be there. Every single person on this stage within a standard deviation or so, was able to articulate what's in the budget and what that looks like. And for those of you at home, it may have been informative for you that our budget is not hundreds of millions of dollars. It is much, not hundreds of billions of dollars, but it is much smaller than some folks may understand. The other role, the very specific role of the council president, is that person who, when it gets to that tie, the person who's going to break that tie is going to be y'all. It's not a common occurrence, but it is certainly a very important part of this role. I would argue one of the most important parts of this role, though, is the fact that the city council president determines which council members serve on which committees. So the city council is made up of how many committees, Mike Russell?
I believe 6.
Nope. Courtney?
7.
Okay. It's 7 and or 8 if you count the council chairs, the committee chairs department. They do have that on the website listed as an 8th, but officially it is 7. And so there are a number of committees. So this is, again, y'all know this, but it's important that we make sure that people come along the Magic School Bus with us. It is, the city council president is going to be putting people into committees and be able to determine which council members lead certain committees. There are 7 committees, and each committee has a different series of responsibilities. So it really does matter, and we all know it is a slightly political process sometimes on who gets to be on what committee and who it is that gets chosen to be there or not. And then in addition to that, when legislation comes to the council, which committee it gets pushed to is something that the council president needs to be ready to know which committee handles which handles a piece of legislation that comes to them. So I'm going to ask y'all to take out your blackboards again. Thank you. We're going to talk.
Okay.
I just want to give everyone's vocal cords a little bit of a rest. It's going to be nice and nice. All right. So I'm going to tell you about a matter, a actual matter that is going to be within a piece of legislation. I want you to tell me which committee would the city council president put that matter into, right? Which committee? So y'all got to know at home. We'll go over the 7. You could go on voteatl.org to make sure that you're able to see on the City Council President page which committees we're really talking about. There are 7 committees. Y'all are going to tell us which committee would this piece of legislation actually go into. So if a piece of legislation came in that had to do with the, some of these are going to be easy, some of these are going to be hard. So, as my mom said when I'm on Zoom, watch your face, right? And so let's talk about if it's about the airport, which committee? Okay, 3, 2, 1, we can see.
Oh, that is cute.
Okay, go ahead. What'd you write?
Oh, finance.
Finance, what'd you write? Finance, you wrote trans, and you wrote which I presume is transportation. It would be the transportation committee. So anything related to the airport would go to the transportation committee. That any piece of legislation would be deferred to the transportation committee. I'll give you another easy one. Recycling. Which committee would recycling go into? And if you could keep it close to you for a quick second, because I don't want to. Okay, cool. Oh yeah. All right. Okay. Let me see what you got. What did you write, Mike Russell? You're looking straight up at Doug Shipman's paper. It's cool. I look at other. I looked. All right. Is that PW supposed to be Public Works, or is that your password? You're looking for the Wi-Fi? Like, is that you're looking for the Wi-Fi password to look up the answer? Because it's not Public Works. It is utilities. Utilities is correct for the three other candidates there. All right. We're going to get a little bit less easy. Let's go ahead and look at anything related to elections. Which committee would go to, okay. You're going to need another piece of chalk, how hard you're writing with that chalk right now. So I love it. It's great. No, I know. That's all good. It's all good. Okay. All right. You wrote, okay, Doug, what'd you write? Community development. What'd you write, Mike Russell? Elections committee, elections board. What is that?
Oh, finance.
Finance. And the correct answer is committee on council. Committee on council. So the committee on council, any piece of legislation that is related to elections would go to the committee on council. We're gonna do a few more. It's important because ultimately the role of the city council president is not to vote on stuff, is to break ties, and it's also very important that you get committee structures correct and right. I'll come right back to you if you still have a challenge with the, yeah, you can use your whistle. If you want to use your whistle on, it's fine. All right, so then let's wait. Let's wait. It's all good. Oh my gosh, the Atlanta is coming. It's coming for me. I felt it. All right, so how about Atlanta 311? Where would that go? There are a couple answers I'll accept, but. Okay, said 311. If a piece of legislation came. Okay. Okay, what'd you put? You put utilities and community development. Is neither one of those, Doug. Public Works, it is not that. It is not CDHS. It is the Finance and Executive Committee. What did you put?
Public safety, legal,
and finance exec committee. Sorry, I didn't know. Those look like Greek letters a little bit to me. Okay, it is the Finance and Executive Committee. Trust me, we have fact-checked these. We have put these through the ringers. Y'all are welcome to cross-check us on that at home if you'd like to as well. I got a bunch of nerds who have looked this stuff up. All right, a few more because I like this. This is fun. How about the Atlanta Regional Commission? Anything related to the Atlanta Regional Commission, which is a board that the city council president does potentially serve on or help nominate someone who would. The Atlanta Regional Commission, so regional issues that are there. I'll do a couple more after this. Okay, community development, CDHS. What'd you put, Ms. Archibong?
I'm not answering.
No, you got to answer.
I should know.
Okay, you should know. I agree. Is that transportation?
It is.
The answer is transportation. The answer is transportation. anything related to the Atlanta Regional Commission, if that legislation came to council, it would go to the Transportation Committee.
Are you writing your answers before the question?
No, I wrote them. I'm just circling.
No, he's efficient. He's efficient, Mike Russell. He's efficient. He's a millennial. Don't pick on the millennial on stage. I got you there, bro. That's no problem. All right, I'm gonna do two more because I got a bonus one, which is really good. This one's really near and dear to my heart. I hope y'all get this one. I'm going to skip that one. No, NPUs, very near and dear to our hearts at the Center for Civic Innovation. Very, very important that people know which committee when you go to when you want to talk about those NPUs, our neighborhood planning units, those advisory bodies inside of our communities, started under the Jackson administration. So let's hear it. What do you got? All right, CDHS, Community Development, Human Services, Community Development, CHS. Y'all, all four of y'all got that. Nailed it. That makes me feel good. I'm going to take credit. They didn't see you. They didn't see you. I was watching. Don't you worry. I was watching. This is one that NPUs are an extremely important conversation that the city council president is going to need to have with council no matter what. I'm going to do one more. Another one that folks are going to have to deal with is the municipal courts operations. So the operations of the municipal court system. There's going to be legislation sometimes that's going to come up, and they're going to be like, all right, city council president, which committee does this go to? Which committee does this go to? So we're going to need to know which committee does that go to. Okay? Let's give folks just a quick second. All right, we done? Okay. What'd you put, Doug? Exec committee. What'd you put, Mike Russell? Okay. You put public safety. Put public safety. You put public safety. The correct answer is public safety. It's the public safety and legal administration. So, we could take a little breather here. But no, all right, no, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. Man, why you got to bias the process a little bit? All right, look. The point is that, look, you're not always gonna, I want to also be fair to everyone here. There is a clerk that will be there that will help be able to tell you which, hey, look, council president actually goes in this one, and council presidents in the past have like had discrepancies in which it goes to. But it is extremely important because that is one of the core functions of the city council president is to be able to determine committee structures and to figure out which legislation goes to which committee. So it seems like y'all loved that one. Should we just do 17 more of those? Or, okay. All right. So that's another extremely important part of this particular process. The other, so again, the goals, the role of the city council president. Number one, if there's a tie, you break the tie. Number two, you got to work on committees. Number three, if something happens to the mayor, right? So if the mayor, has a really bad thing, if the mayor, did you say CIA? What do you say? He's making jokes. It's Friday night. It's Friday night.
It's Friday night, and I'm missing Pride, but it's okay. I'm here with you guys, so I think we can make some jokes.
Oh no, you can definitely make jokes. I just didn't hear the joke, Mike Russell. That's all. If you're gonna make the joke, just let me hear it.
Oh, I said if they're indicted.
Oh, if they're indicted, I see. Okay. I'm not sure what you would be referring to at all. So if there is trouble in the mayor's office. Or if, for example, they're appointed to something else, or they get to go to, be in another country, you as city council president would assume the role of mayor. Now, one thing that does frustrate me about the city council president process is that everybody kind of just treats y'all as mayoral candidates sometimes too. Like when they're talking about, the issues and everything, they want to know like what you're going to do as mayor and everything. So that's why I wanted to make sure we got the technical components of it, because in very rare occasion, will you be the person who assumes that executive role. But I think it is important if you were to assume that executive role, where your priorities would actually stand and what you think the city's number one focus should be. So I'm going to give everybody an opportunity. If you were mayor, We know some of y'all don't want to be mayor. Some of y'all won't commit to you don't want to be mayor, but some of y'all might be mayor. Some of y'all might think you're running for mayor right now. Some of y'all might be, I don't know. But if you were elected to be the mayor of this city, what would if you were, what would your slogan be? Well, how would you bring Atlanta together? What would your slogan be?
Wait, technical question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you if we were elected or if
Excuse me.
if we ascended to the office because something
If
happened?
you ascended, not elected, excuse me, thank you so much. Not elected, if you ascended, as you wish, or were ascended, that's a good one. It is Friday night, got high jokes. If you ascended to that office, where would your priority be for the city of Atlanta? Where do you think right now, if the mayor had left, for example, today, and you were city council president, so let's do that. If you were the city council president today, and the mayor got a gig in the Biden administration, if that was true, and you became the mayor for a few months or and change, where would your priority be? What would you tell the people of Atlanta? And we'll start with you, Mike Russell.
It would probably be the same as my slogan is now for a safer, better Atlanta.
Okay.
Starting with public safety, I firmly believe that is the first responsibility of government to protect the citizens. And then the second thing would be the infrastructure, which this city is not doing a very good job of right now. And I think the third thing is transparency in government. I think there's a lot of mistrust in our government because of the cronyism and other things that have happened throughout the years. And I think those would be the three things that would affect every single person in this city, starting with public safety.
Okay. Ms. Archibald, how about for you?
And it would be right now.
Right now.
Okay. I would want to, and I don't have a catchy slogan, I was thinking about stability, because it is important for continuity. With such a short amount of time left, we're not going to be able to get new commissioners. We're not going to be able to do a lot of things just from a pragmatic purpose, and pragmatically speaking. And so I would want the Atlantans to know that there would be stability, that there would still be accountability, and that the ship is still in the water and we're going to float and we're going to do well.
Got it. Okay. Mr. Shipman?
I think at this moment people want engagement. They feel as if they haven't been heard. They feel as if the city is not working well. They feel as if they're not seen. Leadership come to them. I think if it was at this moment, it would be going out and it would be engaging directly with folks to then help the city work better. I think that's what the city is starving for. It just doesn't see the city reaching out to them right now.
Got it. And Mr. English?
I think I would reassure people, first and foremost, in a time where you've got a spike in violent crime in the middle of a global pandemic, in the middle of an affordable housing crisis. I think when you have a dramatic change in leadership, I think people need reassurance. I would acknowledge that the challenges ahead of us are great, but I would remind them that the history of this city has taught us that there's nothing wrong with Atlanta that can't be solved by what's right with Atlanta. And then I would move with urgency to address those issues.
Yeah. Got it. I want to, we have a few additional pieces here. Is there anyone else who had anything to add? Okay. A few additional pieces that I wanted to hit on. We got about 15 minutes remaining. If you could take out your whiteboard or your blackboards again. Blackboard. Yeah. I saw Miss Archibald getting a little comfortable, so I wanted to make sure. All right. Which of the current city council members, one of the main roles that, in addition to actually being able to put people onto boards and commissions, onto the committees, there are boards and commissions that you also are going to be responsible as city council president for nominating people to or putting people on. Can each of you write down one additional, beyond committee, one additional board that you would have the opportunity, or maybe the most important board that you would have the opportunity to nominate someone to serve on if you were city council president. So once again, the city council president appoints people to council. Can you not show everyone your paper? So no one's looking. No one looked. No one looked. But if you were to have someone, so city council president appoints people to the committees on city council. In addition to that, there are other boards that it also appoints people to. Which board is the most important board that you would, and like if you picked a city council representative, which board, which city council president or representative today would you appoint to that board? There are 66 possible answers to this question.
Okay.
Which city council?
What personal?
So let's start with the first question. I added 2 questions, so let me start with the first question. There are 66 appointments to 53 potential boards. Okay. Of those 53 potential boards, which do you think is the most important board that the city council president appoints someone to? Which is the most important board? Give you all a quick second. So again, for those who are listening at home, the city council president is responsible for making sure that council members sit on committees within city council. There are 7, 8 if you count all the chairs coming together. There are 7 different committees. We went through a few of those committees before. In addition to that, they are responsible for appointing people to other types of boards. There are 53 potential boards and 66 potential appointments that the city council president would be responsible for. So the question is, of all of those, what do you think is the most important board? Courtney, I'll start with you. Okay. And Noah, if we can get folks not to write anymore, just because I don't want answers to change. Just we'll have chalks down. There we go. Perfect. Okay, well, let me get to Courtney, and then I'll get to you. Courtney, you said invest Atlanta. Why?
Yeah, so I think the city needs to fundamentally change who gets tax incentives, who doesn't. I think right now we have a city that favors large corporations, big business, and has forgotten about the little guy, small businesses, startups. And I think that needs to change. And so we need a board that is constituted of folks who are dedicated to creating an equitable Atlanta, and that starts with how the city allocates its tax resources.
Yeah, great. We've got agreement with Mr. Shipman. So CDHS is the appointment that you make already. So that person automatically serves on the Invest Atlanta board. Of the council today, if they were completely all came back, who would you take and make the CDHS chair?
I like Matt. Matt is currently CDHS chair. I like Matt.
Okay. We knew you liked Matt. We knew that. Yeah, y'all the boys. I got that. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you. No, that's a fair answer. Mr. Russell, you did not write anything down. Why is that?
Because I just want to make a point here. I think this is part of the problem.
Don't write, Doug, please. We're going to have chalks down, please. Sorry.
Everybody works in these silos, and these things are all interconnected, and I don't know how one could be more important than the other. There needs to be a balance, and these things need to work in concert with one another and not in silos, and I think that happens quite a bit, both in the city government and in the school system.
Got it. So so if not Invest Atlanta, can you just name another important board that the city council president appoints someone to? Just to any important board. I just want to make sure you know the boards that they appoint to.
I mean, Invest Atlanta would be one, but
52 other options.
I don't know. I just think then I'll go back on what I said earlier. I don't think there's one that's more important than the other.
I've revised the question for you, that it's no longer the most important, but just any other board, and what the role would be of appointing someone to that board. No, I'm not trying to be tough, but honestly, I think it's so important that our city council presidents know these committees, know these things. I think that's extremely important. We could come back to you on a different question to be able to elaborate on what you were speaking to earlier. What did you say, Doug? You said
Pension oversight.
Pension oversight.
Pension board.
Okay. What's that? So I just want to make sure I understand which
I thought
exact
that-
board you're talking about.
I thought that the city council president made one of the appointments to the pension oversight board that was reformed a couple years ago.
No. Wait. I'm going to do a fact check just to make sure. Kyle, is that correct? That is correct. Okay. So, Doug, you are correct that you're saying it's not correct.
I'm on the board, it's not correct.
Okay. We'll do a fact check on that, but why don't you, if you could state your reasoning, and then we'll make sure that we get your fact checked immediately.
So I think pension oversight is a very vital role of the city. I think it also has a huge impact on how employees feel about the engagement with the city. So I think it's one of the most crucial functions that we have, and so the oversight's important.
Okay. And if you were to take a certain council member on current city council, who would that be to serve on that board?
So if it was current city council, I would probably say Jennifer Ide. I think that she has a firm grip on finance, and so I think that you need somebody who understands the implications of different approaches.
Okay. So we just got a fact check, which is per the clerk, as of this month, there is an appointment. So as of this past month, there is a appointment per the clerk. So that is an accurate and correct thing. So thank you for elaborating on that, and thank you for the fact check, Kyle. So I wanted to turn to you, Ms. Archibald.
I want Kyle to keep checking.
Okay. Well,
It's Marcy Overstreet and Natalie Archibald and the FEC committee voted on us.
yep, we're going to have Kyle check that.
Okay,
Yep.
I just wanted
Yeah, of course. No, I mean.
This person on something that's right, so I probably got this one wrong.
Okay.
Where is
the
it?
microphone.
Oh my gosh.
You put it in your purse.
I did.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
All right.
I said the Affordable Housing Commission,
Okay.
and that is because the city, Invest Atlanta, the Beltline, APS even has some affordable housing. We have Atlanta Housing. This Affordable Housing Commission, and yes, I was the author of the legislation establishing it, creates for the first time a comprehensive group of folks who touch on so many pieces of affordable housing are working together to develop a roadmap for the city to have finally a comprehensive plan for addressing affordability. I'm very proud of that commission.
Okay. And if someone on council were to be appointed to that position for me, who would that be for you?
Natalie Archibald.
Okay. Beyond yourself, I figured you would choose yourself. It seems to be a theme here. So would love to get you to pick on somebody else. Who else?
Of the current members of the
That's right.
council. I would probably, Andre Dickens has been really big in the affordable housing space. So
Okay.
probably
Got
Andre.
it. Okay. One more question for the board, and then we will begin our closeout of this conversation. Thank you so much.
For this?
Oh, of this. Sorry. Yes. If you wipe your slate clean. And while we're doing that, we got a fact check, which is from the actual the clerk's language, which is one member, either an active or retired employee of the City of Atlanta, who is a participant in either the City of Atlanta's General Employee Pension Plan, Firefighters Pension Plan, or the Police Officers Pension Plan, is appointed annually by the President of the Atlanta City Council per the code. That is per the code. I will let you and our fact checkers duke that out after this.
We amended the code. We
Okay.
did.
We will let you all duke that out afterward, but according to the code and the fact check that we have, I'm sure folks at home are like going crazy
I believe
right
this has
now.
become a drinking game.
Yeah, this
We're
has
in
become a
all of the
drinking
different
game.
places.
But I wanted to
We're
just
watching.
respect to you, Doug, for answering that question. It is a correct answer per the code here. So we will accept that answer. So thank you so much. The last piece of the chalkboard question, and then as I said, we'll begin to close out, is who would you work best with as if they were elected mayor? So which mayor would you work best with?
Okay.
Which mayor would you work, mayoral candidate would you work best with? And just so we can keep talking about pension reform, the ordinance code is 20-0-1178. So we got nerds on nerds here. Okay, so who is it that you hope you could work best with if they were elected mayor of Atlanta this year? Okay. No, don't say all. I will not accept that answer, and I will not have you respond to it then. If you're not interested in answering the question, you can skip the answer to the question. I won't have you answer it, but we'll put it on record that you did not want to answer it.
But hold on, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm down to answer. I'm sorry.
All right.
You said the Atlanta.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
coming
yeah.
out.
All right, no,
It's
bring it
true.
out. It's all
I'm down
good.
to answer, but I don't want to like. Can we all? Are we answering the question? And I don't want to.
No, everyone should answer this question. No, but why would you not answer the? It's not that you would. Let me say this.
So I'll bring my answer down.
No.
But-
Just hold on one second. Let me say this. It is my understanding that if all of you are elected city council president, you do not have control on who the people elect as the mayor of Atlanta. Okay, so you will have to work with whoever is the mayor of Atlanta. I got you. That makes sense. That is the easy answer. My question, because we have also interviewed the vast majority of these candidates for mayor, is that people do, going back to how we started this conversation, the relationship between the city council president and the mayor absolutely matters. It absolutely matters. And no, y'all won't all get along with everybody. I know that for a fact. Some of y'all have demonstrable evidence of that. So I know that for a fact. So what I do want to know is, who is it that you think you would work the best with? So I'm going to start with you, Doug Shipman.
Yeah, I don't want to answer the question because I think it poisons the well of the relationship. And I think the relationship is too important than to answer that question ahead of time.
Why is that? Why would it poison the well, Doug?
Because it could be seen as trying to influence who actually becomes mayor. I have a vote. That's the only way that I'm going to exercise my influence over that in this race. I'm not going to answer the question.
You don't think it's important for people to hear? I mean, there's clear differences between the mayoral candidates that are there.
Of course, but
Okay.
I have to try to maintain the ability to have a good relationship with whoever's in that office.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think answering this question ahead of time could spoil that.
Okay. Does anyone disagree and feel like that answering the question would be the right thing to do?
I will answer the question.
Okay.
I say Felicia Moore. That doesn't mean that I endorse her as mayor. What I think is, because of her personality, she's a person of integrity. Having been on the city council, I think she would be the person who would be more amenable to work with the city council, having served on that body. And just the way that I've watched her conduct herself on the city council as actually reaching out and trying to work with other people. That does not say that the other ones would not, but having observed her and seeing the character that she has and the way that she's bent over backwards to accommodate people with different ideas and different views as city council president, as strictly working with someone, I think she would probably be the easiest one to do that.
Okay. Anyone else want to directly answer the question? And now at this point, it's your choice because we've already kind of.
Did you ask the mayoral candidates that question?
I can. I'd be happy to. I will go back. If you would like me to do that, I will happily make sure that I get an answer to that. I will do that.
The answer is Archibong again.
So, Courtney, I'll give you this space. I don't even know. Now you're just saying Natalie Archibong whenever it is. Natalie Archibong for school board. Natalie Archibong for. But Courtney, I'm happy to have you elaborate on your answer since we gave other folks the opportunity to do so.
Here's the question: is who would you work the best with?
Yeah.
Right. Not necessarily who you hope to be mayor, who's going to win, so on and so
That's
forth.
right, yeah.
Like, look. So my answer, I wrote my answer down a long time ago.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
Andre Dickens.
Okay,
Right.
Andre
and
Dickens.
so let me be clear about why though. Right. Because we've worked together on so many things in the past. Right. Whether it be issues of affordable housing. We built an app that was designed to connect kids who from underserved communities to exposure opportunities throughout the city. We created the Atlanta Public Schools and Atlanta City Council Joint Commission. And so so I'm basing it on my experience having worked with the individual before, and I've just worked with Andre a lot. And so I know what that relationship is like. We work well together. I've also done big things with Mayor Reed. Mayor Reed and I renegotiated on behalf of myself, on behalf of the Atlanta Public School System, and on behalf of the city. We led the negotiation for those two parties to resolve the Beltline dispute. The deal we brokered guaranteed $100 million for Atlanta's kids and kept the Beltline financially on track. And so I'm basing it on the folks that I've actually done work with.
Yep.
It's not an indictment on any of the other candidates in the race. It's just that question that you asked.
Yeah.
I'll also say this, and then I'll be quiet, is that I would hope that whomever the mayor is mature enough to understand that question, right? And literally say, we answered the question that was asked. And so I don't believe that necessarily that question poisons the well. I'm just trying to be honest about
I got you. Yep. Okay. Ms. Archibong, if you want to respond, you don't have to.
I think what Mr. Shipman said was probably 85% of what I believe.
85%. What's the other 15% of what you
I
believe?
have to be uniquely, better than that. I had 15% that would have been better, but I've forgotten what it was.
Okay, so
I'm
you
not
agree
saying
100% with Doug Shipman, but you wanted to say 85
Yes.
to show differentiation.
I very much would like to hear
what
it.
man, what a policy grounded approach. Really just beautiful.
Thank you so much.
So is there any candidate that y'all think you couldn't work with that would be difficult for y'all to work with, that maybe a challenge that is actually a viable candidate, meaning that they are polling in any way, shape, or form? Is there any candidate that you would be concerned about, or that that they need to maybe answer some questions? Is there a question you have for any of those candidates that you want to make sure of? Or do you think that all these candidates are, the top viable candidates are all good choices for Atlanta? Are they? Y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm saying, at the end of the day, this is weird for people in Atlanta, because at the end of the day, we got a bunch of folks who are running for mayor, who ultimately a number of people jumped in right after this current mayor decided that she didn't want to run. And then all of a sudden we went from a few folks to a lot of folks running for mayor. There was a direct response to Mayor Bottoms not running for office. We've talked to a lot of them. There's a lot of, people are at this impasse. They're like, I don't know what's the right thing to do. I think a city council president often is that bully pulpit or that voice for people. And if there's any guidance you can help me with, I'm also undecided on mayor. I would love some help from my potential city council president. Can y'all help me, please?
404. I want you to call me 40.
Okay.
I'll be happy to talk to you.
Okay, so you only want to have that conversation in private, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying, I think the question itself, while provocative, I don't think we're the right people to ask.
Of course you are. You've been in this game for a long time.
We are vying for an office ourselves.
I agree with that.
And because of that, there's the inherent bias I think we heard as a possible result of us saying one thing or another. I trust the electorate. I trust the homework, the Vote ATL, is that the website?
Yep.
Go to that and check out everybody's
I got you. Don't cop out the answer. I agree.
That's a judgment call. It's a cop out. It's an opinion that I think is grounded in experience.
That's fine. It may be political experience.
Yes,
that's
and
true.
Living too.
But I do think, and living experience. But I think that ultimately, I'm wondering whether there's a city council president that is willing to, presidential candidate, that is willing to help guide folks on where. This has been a weird political season for folks. It's been weird because we've had national politics be super weird. Local politics has been, we hear one thing about corruption. We hear another thing about transparency. We hear another thing about this. People do not trust government today. They do not trust it. It is at historic lows. They are not trusting of government. And what they're looking for is folks who are going to tell it to them straight, who are going to help guide them on that decision making. And so I want to know, is there anyone that you think that we should be cautious of?
So Rohit, I will tell you, I get asked this question a lot in lots of meetings.
Yeah.
And what I have said is, what I am looking for when I am deciding is someone who is very technically adept and wants to fix actual operations at the city. I think this is a very, very crucial moment that the mayor has the hands on the wheel. And so to me, I think what I am looking for and what I hope to work with is somebody who is very, very operationally, tactically fixing things focused. I think that's what this moment calls for. And I think that is how I've answered this question in lots and lots of settings with voters who do ask this question. You're right.
Is there any disqualifying factor for any of y'all on who would be is there any lines that you think that people should look at? Or, and it sounds like no one has crossed that on the top candidates. So are there any lines that we should look for? Some guidance from our city council president would be appreciated. Is there anything they should look out for or be cautious of? I'm trying to understand if we have a problem tomorrow with our mayor and whoever it may be of the 14 candidates that are there. If we have a problem we have seen historically that the role of the city council president oftentimes has been to provide a counterbalance and a counterweight to that mayor. That has been historically a lot of the bully pulpit and the way that that bully pulpit has been used. So I'm curious, if we have a challenge with the mayor tomorrow, I want to know what kind of answer I'm going to get from y'all. Is it going to be well, absolutely, I must work with the mayor and it must be there, or is there anyone that you feel concerned about in this political race? And if you think all of them are good to go, whoever it is good, that's fine. That can be the answer. I just want to make sure that that's how everyone feels.
So are you asking if we should change the qualifications for mayor instead of just having, are you a U.S. citizen?
I'm talking about
Are you
ethics. I'm talking
18?
about ethics.
Oh,
pure.
you're talking about ethics.
Yeah, I'm talking
Okay.
about,
All right.
are there any ethical lines
I got
that
you.
we should be conscious of?
Okay.
Well, I do think that character counts in any leadership role. And if people, what you just said resonates, people do not trust government right now. And if you have a mayor that people cannot trust, then that person should probably not be mayor. I think people need, we've been asked this question about appointing people to boards and commissions, what qualifications we look for. And I always say the same answer that I've used my entire career: character and merit. As Dr. King said, the content of their character. Are they an honest, decent, fair-minded person?
Got it.
And then the second thing is merit. Are they capable of doing the job?
Got it.
And I think those are the two things we need to look for, and I would put character in the first place.
Okay. 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 Well, we got as good of an answer as we would get on that on that question. That is your prerogative to answer that question as you wish. The last question, and we're closing out with this, is I think that one of the things that I've seen in the past with city council presidents that I personally have found to be extremely valuable was when a lot of protests that happen in the streets, not just now, but this has been happening. You know, like we got generations of folks who have been in the streets fighting to make sure that Atlanta becomes a more equitable city. It is a city that talks a lot about its civil rights history, but it is also the city with the highest income inequality gap in the United States. It is a history that talks about its plentiful opportunities for entrepreneurs, but it also is a city where we still have a disproportionate number of that black women-led organizations are funded extremely less so than anyone else. So while we preach to the world about our equity, we have a mirror that's looking right back at us and saying, how equitable actually are we? And one of the most powerful things that I think, while the role of the city council president is to, number one, break those votes if it needed, which hasn't happened since '99, to appoint committees where there are 8 of them, and we got to make sure that the right folks are on the right committees and the right legislation goes to the right committees. And in addition, if something happens to our mayor, you will assume that position and be able to execute on it with vision. The other thing that I think is extremely important is that bully pulpit that you hold. So I want you to pretend like you are in the streets right after George Floyd, talking to people in Atlanta who say, I don't know what's happening with my city, but I don't recognize it anymore. What is your message to residents of Atlanta who feel like they no longer recognize and in some ways no longer trust the city that they call home? And so I will start with you, Ms. Archibald.
You know, the George Floyd murder, can't even talk, I'm so still upset about it, was so shocking, not only to the nation, but here. And I want to reassure you that Atlanta is not Minneapolis, that you have the confidence that we care about justice and we care about how services are delivered, including policing services, and you have my commitment to ensure that the men and women who protect and serve will do so with equity, will do so with fairness, and the issues that you're bringing to us are valuable. They are important, and they will inform how we look at reimagining policing. It's not just a cute phrase, it's something that we fundamentally have to do. We have to incorporate into how we look at public safety as a conversation and an opportunity for us to engage better, for us to respect community, for us to be equitable in how we administer and deal with the issues that are out in our community. And you have my absolute assurance that this is not a moment that will pass. This is a moment that will inform how we change and do better in making our community safe and making our citizens feel valued and a part of that conversation.
Got it. Mr. English?
In a moment such as this, and given the question that you'd asked, I had to take myself to that moment. Candidly, like being a black man in America, I'm going to have to deal with my own emotions first. And so what that looks like for me is, I take my problems to God. And so in that room, in that moment, we're going to have a moment of silence, of quiet reflection, of prayer. In that moment, we're going to lean on each other's shoulders and we're going to cry and yell and shout. And we're going to feel everything that we need to feel in that particular moment. And I'll be honest, and I will tell folks, like, there are not words that match that moment. Because I remember the level of rage and anger that I felt. And so that's what I would say to people. Then I would say, listen, we have an opportunity here to use the life, and I'm not going to call it a sacrifice because George Floyd did not sacrifice his life, right? His life was taken. And so we have an opportunity to make the fact that his life was taken lead for a better tomorrow for the rest of us who are left. Not only that, it's our responsibility to do so. I don't know what that's going to look like, but they will have my assurance that I will give my whole heart and my whole being to creating a better tomorrow so that George Floyd, that story is the last story.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I love you for that answer. Thank you. Mike Russell.
I think the first thing is the leader has to have credibility with the population before anything like this happens. And you've got to establish yourself as a leader, a trustworthy leader. This brings back some ugly memories of places I've been where there was genocide. And I think that is one of the reasons why I cannot even watch a movie where someone's hurt, because that being around that has affected me so deeply. But the way I was able to bring people to the table to stop killing each other, literally, was first that I had credibility, and then looking through the lens of those who are hurting and understanding from their perspective what has happened. It's a very difficult moment, and I think one of the reasons that my campaign has done as well as it is because it's about authenticity, that you don't always have every answer to every problem, but people understand that you care, you're authentic, and you believe in what you say and what you do. And I can take this experience back to leading soldiers in combat. Soldiers will not follow you when their life is on the line if they don't believe in you, they don't believe in your authenticity, that you have their best interest at heart. And I think that's why so many leaders around this country, their words fell on deaf ears because they did not have that credibility before the crisis came. And so as a leader, I would establish my credibility in every community in this city by the actions that I take, not just the words that I speak on a daily basis. So when a crisis like this occurs, and I have been in these situations before, that your word is accepted because you have authenticity and you have credibility with those whom you're leading.
Thank you.
Let me just start by saying that I hope in that moment that I would have what Courtney shared, because I think that was truly authentic and right. In that moment, we have to mourn. We have to allow the emotions not only of George Floyd, but of so many who have been killed before for so little, to be allowed to be expressed. We have to express those tonight, in that moment. And then we have to come together tomorrow and change the way Atlanta works. We have to change where the money flows. We have to change who makes the rules. We have to change how participation happens. And so in that moment, we have to allow ourselves to mourn. But then we have to put that passion tomorrow to work together. And I don't know what that will look like tomorrow. But I need everyone who is here tonight to go on that journey tomorrow, because Atlanta, at its best, has not backed down from the hardest conversations. We haven't scaled the mountain, but at the very least, the city has been able to see that there's a mountain to scale.
Yeah. Just thank you for that, for all of you. That's not an easy thing for us to talk about. These are moments that we do not want to have in our city. But there are too many families and too many folks who experience this pain. And there are so many people who get to navigate this city without having to see that pain and the results and the consequences of that pain. There are folks who are going through trauma right now. COVID has stripped away basic life necessities for people and has shown the basic life necessities that so many people have lacked well before a global pandemic. And so to close, I want to end on hope. I think that's extremely important. I want to also say thank you to the four of you. I have experienced in some ways more nuanced conversation and more technical conversation in some cases and more empathy and heart than almost in any other voter conversation that I have had. I'm very proud that this is our slate of folks running for city council president. I think I could answer that question for city council president. Are folks ready for the moment? I do believe that all four of you have brought in different ideas, different perspectives, and you've taken the challenge of the questions to task. I think some of y'all got some work to do in some areas, and some of y'all got to double down in other areas, but we need you in public service. And so I want you to leave us on hope, and you can look right in the camera if you need to, or however you need to, but I want you to think again about the person whose name you wrote down at the beginning of this conversation, the person who is proud of you, because they are proud of you in a lot of ways. And I want you to give folks hope that, you know, the city that they love is going through a tough time, but we're going to be all right. That the city is going to persevere and is going to be all right. So I'll start with you, Doug, and end with Ms. Archibong, and we'll close out for the evening.
So I want to thank you for having the conversation, for having us here tonight. You know, I've had the chance to move all around the city, to have meetings and gatherings in every single part. And at this moment, there is vast agreement on the challenges that we face. I've been in so many neighborhoods that have asked the same kinds of questions, that have had the same kinds of concerns, which tells me that if we have leadership that will bring the city together, there is enormous energy that wants change to happen in very similar ways. We've been so isolated we may not see it at this moment, but it's there. It's there to be tapped in a new way for Atlanta, and I believe that there is enormous appetite to work together going forward.
Can we all give him a pom-pom for that? I think that's I got you. Let's get a little pom-pom. Yeah, woo woo, yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Shared pom-poms. That's great. It's just a pom. A pom. Yes, right. So, thank you, Doug, for that answer. And where can people find more information about your campaign?
DougShipman.com.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Russell.
Well, again, thank you for having me here and hosting this. This has been quite different than any other forum we've done so far, and I appreciate that. Listen, I chose Atlanta as my new hometown. I could have moved, my husband and I, any place in the world. We chose this city because we believe in the city and we love this city. And, you know, my slogan is not just empty words. I'm in this race to help make our city the cradle of the nonviolent civil rights movement, safer and better for everybody. And we can do that, and we will do that when we come together. And I want folks to stop trying to divide us by race, sexual orientation, income levels, and start seeing people as individual human beings. Stop trying to put people in categories. Let's start looking at one another as individual human beings and come together as a city and live up to that slogan that this is a city too busy to hate. I'm here to take on that challenge. I'm here offering you leadership that gets results, and I'm a team builder. I've done it before. I want to do those things again here in Atlanta with you, the residents of this city. All of us love, and we can and will do this as one team. Thank you.
Where can people find more information about you?
You can find more information about me at MikeRussellAtlanta, all one word.com.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here. Mr. English.
You know, it's a terrible thing to feel like a stranger in your own home. And I've said that before over the course of this campaign, and it's usually in connection to affordable housing. As we know, we've got communities all across the city that are being displaced. But as I zoom out, people feel like strangers in their own home because we're dealing with issues of rising crime. We're dealing with an ongoing pandemic that threatens to put thousands upon thousands of folks on the street. We are dealing with ongoing issues of long-standing inequity. We're dealing with issues like in food deserts throughout our city. We're dealing with issues like lacking transportation options or neighborhoods that lack jobs that pay living wages. And all of this has led to a feeling like we're strangers in our own home. And that feeling is embedded in the idea that this is not the Atlanta we know and love, that our promise lies beyond the challenges that we face. This election, if it's about anything, it's about rising to meet that moment. It's about being true to who we are as a city, who we say we are. And that's what my campaign has always been about. It's about that kid in Southwest Atlanta who grew up in one of the most underserved communities in this city and found a spot in this city to give back and serve the city that he loves. It's about the woman who wants to look towards her future, not over her shoulder as she moves throughout this city. It's about the senior citizen who has spent 40 years in our home but is scared of being displaced. And so ultimately, I fundamentally believe that my campaign offers a return of sorts, a return to home. And so I'm asking for your vote. My name is Courtney English. I'm running for City Council President as a solemn reminder that there's nothing wrong with Atlanta that can't be solved by what's right with Atlanta. I love you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
And they can find more information about you.
Yep.
Yep. You can
Want to
find
switch seats? We can switch seats. It's all good. No.
Courtney English. You can find information about my campaign at CourtneyEnglish.com. All of social media outlets, Courtney English on Twitter, Courtney English, the number 4, ATL on Instagram, and Facebook.
Cool. All right.
Who did
Thank
that?
Wasn't me.
That was the mic drop.
Mic drop.
Okay.
It was the mic
drop
drop.
the mic on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. All right, Miss Archibong, if you could bring us home.
I will try. I agree with everybody around thanking you for this. This format was conducive to allowing us, except for the chalkboard scenarios, conducive to.
Because you broke a bunch of talk.
I did. I stepped on a bunch of it. But it was conducive to allowing us to really share in meaningful ways. And 60 seconds isn't often long enough. I want to talk to the thousands that are listening, the legions that are listening. I got my start 20 years ago. I was elected by the constituents in Council District 5. We had a horrific situation that happened. The sheriff of this county had murdered the person who had defeated him. I was running against that sheriff's wife. The whole community got behind me as I courageously said, I'm going to run and I'm not going to be scared because the community needs us. We were facing a lot of crisis. We had crime. We had dilapidated commercial areas. It was a challenging time. And I ran and I won. But the thing that grounds me and continues to ground me is that the people that trusted me 20 years ago, have grounded me in a way that I know accountability to the citizens is not just something we talk about, it's something we must do. And I have for 20 years been someone who listens to the community before I act, and I've had the courage to be independent. I've served under 3 mayors and 5 council presidents. And in all of those instances, I have never pivoted away from the challenge that was presented to me and the opportunity to serve the community. I said that I would serve and never forget you. You know, one of my favorite sayings is, don't forget who brought you to the dance. The citizens of Atlanta entrusted me, and I will never, ever break that trust. I'm an attorney by training. I have legislative experience. I think the president of city council is a job best held by someone who has served on the city council. And I am honored and humbled that no one else who has been a prior council member or currently serving offered themselves. I am here. I am ready day one. I love Atlanta, and I know how to lead with courage and with intelligence, and I would thank you for your vote. You can find more information about me at archibongforatl.com. For an Atlanta safe and strong, vote Natalie Archibong. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug, Mike, Courtney, Natalie, Ms. Archibong. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your time. I thank you for everything that y'all are doing. I wish you a lot of power in the next few months to power through it. For those of y'all who do not know, running for public office is not for the faint of heart. It takes a toll not just on these individuals. Their families are affected by this. Their friends are affected by this. So it's important that it's easy to critique. It's easy to critique folks who are in office, and I will spend the rest of my life doing that. And I promise that. Yeah, I will spend the rest of my life doing that. But it's also important that we ground ourselves as human beings that really deeply care about this city. Y'all, early voting starts on Tuesday. Excuse me. Monday is a holiday. A white guy was confused about his Indians, so we made a holiday. So Monday is a holiday, but Tuesday, October the 12th, you can start voting. If you can vote anywhere in your county. You don't have to go to that place that you only go on election day. You can go anywhere in your county. Look it up. Make sure, if you have not registered by now, which majority of y'all are registered, so that's a good thing. If you're not registered by now, you cannot register anymore. But on October the 12th, you can start voting. So if you've made up your mind about city council president, if you've made up your mind, which none of these folks apparently have, about mayor, bullshit. If you also have made up your mind about folks who are in your council, remember, not only do you have to vote for a council member, the person who is going to represent your district, but we also got 3 at-large members. But please do not forget about the school board. The school board, which we could do an entire conversation around, is important, and it is an independent entity from the city of Atlanta. All those questions I asked, none of these folks, no matter how much they love the kids, have absolutely no control over the school board's budget. They have no control over what the school board's actions are. So it's extremely, extremely important that you also research, who is my school board member? Are they up for election this time around? Who are the at-large members? Are they up for election this time around? You can go to voteatl.org to learn about all of that. We'll be releasing a ton more tools that you can do. We want to make sure that when you go to voteatl.org, you can learn about what does the mayor do, what does city council president do, what does the school board do, and then make a decision by yourself. You can also go to the Secretary of State's website eventually and download a sample ballot where you'll be able to look what else you're going to be voting on. There are going to be questions on there as well that we'll be covering in future sessions. So voteatl.org, thank you to the Connect, thank you to Community Movement Builders, thank you to Blue and Green Consulting, thank you to On the Grid, thank you to Butter, thank you to our board member, Dr. Tanya Washington, who is also here with us today, to the entire team of the Center for Civic Innovation. This has been an amazing, amazing conversation.